just for Mahomes, for me personally, you don't do that, man. That's bad sportsmanship. You don't walk up to the quarterback who you
Not
guys are
professional.
cool. It's not professional at all. You can say whatever you want at the podium to the refs for sure. But I'm gonna keep it 100. That's a bitch made move right there. That's a bitch made move. You don't walk up to the quarterback. Yo, bro, that's the worst fucking call I've ever seen. You don't do that. That's crazy, bro. That's basically telling him, bro, you really ain't should have won this game. But whatever. You know what I'm saying? I feel like you take that to the podium to speak on the refs, which he did, which is like now you bitching even more.
Detail.
Yeah, so it's like it's a little aggravating. But at the end of the day, like you mentioned, next day he owned his rights, but at the moment that's immature. You better than that. You a champion. You an MVP. Like you know better than to do some shit like that.
The reason why this got blown up as big as it is was because he got caught after the game on a hot mic saying to Josh that it's the worst call he's ever seen. That's why it's got blown up as much as it has. Because if you watch Kansas City games, Mahomes is complaining about every call after every game. This is something Mahomes does that is only getting spoken about now because he got caught on a hot mic talking to the other team's quarterback who won the game. This is something that Mahomes has done for God knows how long. I feel like I tweet about this every time I watch a Chiefs game where Mahomes, after every play, whether it's a half second late hit or he feels like his defender's getting interfered with, he's sprinting beeline right to the referee and he's complaining to him, trying to get a whistle. Joel has said it in the past too, or he said it on his show at the Joel V. Moran show. Go ahead and give that a listen. I think it's just Joel Moran show. Okay. But he said there's been times where you look at the Chiefs and they've had calls benefit them. And he's obviously not complaining about those calls because why the hell would you? Because they're obviously playing not the whole part in helping you win a game, but definitely calls that go in your favor. You're never going to complain about. We've seen some moments this season where definitely calls have gone against the Chiefs more so than in recent memory. The one that comes to mind would be that MVS pass interference that was not called, no doubt about it. That definitely was a flag. But in this situation, you were dead wrong. And you were extremely loud about it. That's why it's as embarrassing as a look as it is. But again, if you watch the games with the Kansas City Chiefs, you know that this is not something new with Mahomes. But what's new about it was after the game, the way that he interacted with the other team. That is something that you don't do. But this was a tough loss for the Kansas City Chiefs, no doubt. 8-5, one game now behind them. Those Denver Broncos, the hottest team in the league, just keeps on rolling. We had a little bit of a hiccup last week. We're going to talk about the Broncos a little bit later, so let me not get ahead of myself. But now they're kind of putting their backs against the wall where, hey, every game from here on out is a must-win because those Broncos are right on those heels. And wouldn't it be some shit from the depths of hell, those Denver Broncos come out of nowhere and win the AFC West? That would just be a fairy tale ending to an amazing 5-1
in the division.
Us or the Chiefs. I do know that. Yeah. I do know that.
You got to win some.
No, we have to go.
You got to hope they lose.
We have to beat.
You can't tie with them.
No, we can have the same. Oh, you're right because they have the 5-1.
Yeah,
you're 100%
they
right.
win the second tiebreaker if I'm not.
You're 100% right.
They're 3-1. Their division looks like.
Yeah, he's saying
3-1. You guys are 2-2.
We're 2-2.
Yes,
we lost to the Chiefs. We lost to the.
They're
Raiders
also
week
6-2 in the conference though. So you
lose the third
need to get
tiebreaker
to
because we lost to Miami, we lost to the Jets, and we lost to.
So you would lose
Texans.
the second and third tiebreakers.
We're cooked.
We're cooked.
We're cooked. It's not.
We need them to win. We need them to lose 2 games.
You need to keep winning.
Their
schedule is rather.
It's so easy. Yeah. The only game that you can look at and think, this one could go either way would be that Bengals game, just because the Bengals have won some games that we thought that they.
No, they have the better quarterback. Say it again.
Interesting.
The Bengals. They have a great quarterback out there.
Jake Browning.
Yeah.
Oh, better than Mahomes.
Oh, Burrow.
Oh, Burrow. I was just trying to fucking
no. But when you look at the Kansas City Chiefs, their issue is obvious still. It's this offense. We still see them now relying on Rashee Rice more. Rashee Rice had himself a great ball game, still fumbled the ball. That was pretty tough of them.
Thanks.
But the defense kept them right in this game, 20-17. The Chiefs still had their opportunities to win this game outside of that one play that, of course, Travis Kelce being Travis Kelce, making a one-of-one type play. But even outside of that one play, there still were moments that Mahomes still could have overcame.
Let's hear top Mahomes Glazer, Joel Moran.
But again, before he goes, I'll give him his benefit of the doubt and his credit because he likes to speak to how unbiased he is. This was the most unbiased I felt like I've ever heard Joel talk about Patrick Mahomes because he gave him the honest truth.
I'm all ears.
But go ahead, Mr. Moran. Talk to me.
This was obviously Mahomes' worst moment that he's had in the NFL from a PR perspective. With that came a lot of backlash and controversy, and this was not a good look. He came across as a sore loser, but having time to reflect on this moment, I mean, what all-time great players are not sore losers. Tom Brady was a sore loser. Tom Brady didn't handshake any opponents that beat him. After he would lose games, he would go straight into the tunnel and he wouldn't acknowledge anybody. Michael Jordan, there are a laundry list of receipts on how hard he took losses and how much of an a-hole he was in games. I thought the worst part of this was the Josh Allen clip. That's indefensible. No matter what happens in the game, no matter what call happens, you can't complain to somebody else on the team about that. You just can't. It's as simple as that. So this was a terrible moment. But listen, I'm glad Josh Allen got this win because I want the Bills to be in the playoffs so the playoffs can be the most entertaining playoffs possible. So I'm glad that happened. For the Chiefs, the issues are the same issues that were there in week 1, but I'm kind of getting tired of this narrative around the Chiefs that they needed Tyreek Hill. This year, that can hold true. But last year, they just won a Super Bowl. I mean, they let him go and they won the biggest prize in football. So what are we really talking about here? Mahomes has already proved himself without Tyreek Hill. And given the Chiefs' schedule, they're going to be 12-5 heading into the playoffs on a 4-game win streak. They're going to be one of the hottest teams in the NFL. I think Andy Reid has to stop being stubborn. They have to start playing their best players. They have to start playing their most trustworthy players. You can't trust Kadarius Toney. You can't trust MVS because he runs the wrong routes and he doesn't sit in zones. You have to get more trustworthy receivers in there, even if they're not game breakers. Get Justin Watson more snaps. Get somebody like Richie James, who last year was solid for the Giants, more snaps. I mean, the guys we're talking about, Patrick Mahomes doesn't have much to lean on, but the Chiefs' best chance is to lean on guys that they can trust and guys that they don't have to worry about being offsides. Kadarius Toney, I mean, when they made the trade for him, the compensation the Giants got back was a steal. The only reason why this trade looks somewhat good is because of the punt return that Kadarius Toney had in the Super Bowl. But man, Kadarius Toney's pushing the limit. And we've mentioned time and time again the loss of Eric Bieniemy. I don't think his loss is so much in the play calling or play designing department. I think his loss is in just getting these players right. Because if you have looked into how he runs Washington, it's a very militant routine. Eric Bieniemy is going to call you out for the littlest thing, and he's going to give you praise, but not too much. He's going to keep you very even-keeled. And they need somebody like Eric Bieniemy to really put a boot in somebody's ass if they're not lined up correctly in practice and they're not doing things the right way. I think Mahomes could use that extra motivation. I think Kelsey could use it. I think Toney could use it. This whole offense can use a little bit of a kick and a wake-up call so they can make better habits and be more disciplined, because right now this feels like a disciplined football team and it shows up when it matters most. It showed up versus the Eagles when MVS had that drop. It showed up versus the Lions when Toney had that drop that led to the Brian Branch pick 6. It showed up versus the Bills. So at this point, the Chiefs have been losing by this much with little to no margin for error. So we know that they can win games even if they're messing up, but they just can't mess up in the biggest moments. And I think that's the biggest thing. But as for this Mahomes thing, listen, worst PR thing I've seen him do in years. He's usually not this guy. And I think that this energy was redirected at Allen and the refs, because he's not going to go out there and call out Kadarius Toney. He's not going to call out his teammates, and he needed to let out his frustration somehow. But it was indefensible. I don't think it's going to happen again. But these receivers have to get their act together because they're embarrassing the Chiefs right now.
Yeah, I mean, this was it was tough to watch when you see him come off the field. First, you see him screaming at the sideline. You're like, who's he screaming at? Is he screaming at Andy Reid? He's screaming at the refs. I know you were probably in your fucking glory sitting back watching that.
It's amazing.
You know, of course, he comes out the next day. He says he screwed up. Mahomes, he knows where he's wrong. You know, he's a mature enough guy to at least realize that. But like I said earlier, this is nothing new for Kansas City. You know, this specific play being offsides, maybe, but you go and look, like, there is no doubt in my mind Kadarius Toney was offsides. Now, we could argue about the consistency of that call, because you could see there's plays throughout this week and that game, you know, even in games last night, where you look at receivers, Are they a little bit offsides? Maybe, maybe not. But the refs have to make a call. And you made a great point, Riv, where we get on the refs week in and week out. It feels like this season more than ever, even though it's basically every season where they make wrong call after wrong call. It was the dead right call. Kadarius Toney was offsides. It was a great play by Kelsey. It would be awesome to see that stand because it probably was going to go down as play of the year, if we're being honest. The fact that he catches that ball 30, 40 yards downfield, is able to have the awareness to see Kadarius Toney, have the balls to actually pitch it to him. He goes into the end zone.
Loses his job after that moment.
Yeah, Bills are probably out of the playoff picture, or at least, you definitely have to win out at this point. And now the Chiefs are cruising, have a chance at the number 1 seed still. Now, everything is opposite, and the Bills look like one of the hotter teams going to play Dallas this week. But to talk about the Chiefs real quick, it's the same issues that keep coming up. And I'm not sure if I said it on a previous podcast, but I don't see this team as a Super Bowl team. I don't know, again, if I'm breaking any news here, but Patrick Mahomes could be as great as he is. Andy Reid, I still think, is a great play caller, but this offense this lacks juice. The defense held the Bills to 6 points in the second half. They didn't score a touchdown. It was 2 field goals this defense held them to. This Kansas City offense that we've seen year in and year out be able to come back from 20 points down, 30 points down, Tyreek Hill, big play, all of this. They don't have the weapons to do it. In the offseason, Brett Veach will go in there. He'll do his thing. They'll get weapons. But right now, this team they're not Super Bowl caliber. The offense isn't right.
I got to say, I am not mad, not even the slightest bit.
I know you're not.
Because why the hell would I be?
That's how I feel about Miami.
But I will say, the Buffalo Bills definitely deserve praise. And where you didn't even see a game where Stephon Diggs left his impact, it was still great to see them get James Cook involved in the pass game after the week where was it against Philadelphia, where because they had their bye last week, and then the week before that he had that wheel route where they threw the ball over the top to him, just goes right through his hands. But it was great to see a situation in this game where they went right back to him in a similar play, and he was able to bring it in, had over 80 receiving yards, was one of the impact players for the Buffalo Bills. It was a great team win for Buffalo. You mentioned that defense definitely was able to hold the Kansas City Chiefs in check, but they got to go on a run. 7-6 team. We're going to have a conversation a little bit later about possible contenders in the AFC. Maybe we have discussions about the Buffalo Bills, but this was an essential win and definitely one that you look at the Buffalo Bills in a much more positive light, because we know what's the Kansas City Chiefs expectations, and we understand the conversations that they're in. To come away with the W in Arrowhead is definitely a huge move.